A mother knows her child.
That's why Melissa McInnes wants St. Louis County Police to dig deeper into her son's death.
He was not suicidal.
On October 17th, she found Danye hanging from this tree in their backyard with bruises on his face. And this is her post that's been shared across America.
He was in good spirits.
McInnes says the 24-year-old wasn't depressed and was starting a real estate business. She believes there's more to this story.
He said somebody took my son.
McInnes, a prominent Ferguson activist, told me she thinks her family is being targeted. In the last 2 months, she says they've been getting death threats through social media, and those threats recently showed up at her doorstep.
They watched my house, and when my husband and my son would approach the car, they would drive off.
She also told me she never reported these threats to police, and I asked why not.
Because we felt like we had this, you know.
The St. Louis County coroner says Danye's autopsy won't be ready for weeks.
It began with a morning like any other. The birds were quiet, the air still, the sun rising slow over Spanish Lake, Missouri. But inside one home, time stopped. A mother who had marched through tear gas and carried the weight of a movement found herself facing the one pain she never imagined, the loss of her child. His name was Danye Jones, 24 years old, a son, a builder, a dreamer, and the child of an activist who believed the world could change. He wasn't a celebrity or a politician. He was one of us, someone trying to create a better future, one step, one plan, one idea at a time. His mother, Melissa McInnes, was a familiar face in Ferguson, standing shoulder to shoulder with those who cried for justice after Michael Brown's death. She fought for fairness, for compassion, and for the right to breathe free. But the fight that once filled the streets would soon find its way to her doorstep, in the quiet of her own backyard. On that morning in October 2018, Melissa made a discovery that shattered her world. Her son was gone. The police called it suicide. She called it something else, a tragedy that made no sense, filled with too many questions and too few answers. This story isn't just about one family's grief. It's about the intersection of love and justice, and the weight carried by those who dare to speak truth to power. It's about what happens when the children of the movement, the ones raised on hope, become the ones we have to fight for next. Today, we revisit that morning not to sensationalize pain, but to understand it. We listen to a mother's voice that refuses to be silenced. We look at a case that many feel was closed too soon, and we ask the question that has echoed ever since. How can a young man with so much to live for be gone so suddenly? And why does his story still haunt the hearts of those who remember him? This is not just an investigation. It's a reflection, a prayer, a plea for accountability. This is the story of Danye Jones, the son of a fighter and a mother's unbreakable love.
October 17, 2018, Spanish Lake, Missouri. The morning sun rose slow that day, quiet and unassuming, but for one mother, the world would never be the same again. In the stillness of her own backyard, activist Melissa McInnes found her 24-year-old son, Danye Jones, hanging from a tree by a bedsheet.
They took my baby!
Emotional. Outside the County Justice Center in Clayton, Melissa McInnes claims various marks and indentations were found on her son's body. She says it's evidence he was murdered.
He had a knot
on his face.
We won't know the exact cause of death for weeks. An autopsy is still being done. Danye Jones was found hanging from this tree 2 weeks ago at his family's Spanish Lake home.
Because I'm a mother that loves and misses her son.
McKinnon shared other details about what was discovered October 17th.
His pants were rolled down, not pulled down. They were rolled down.
We asked what that means, and she would not go into detail.
He did not do that. He would not do that.
McKinnon is an activist since the unrest in Ferguson in 2014, says her family has been getting death threats for months. Once again, News 4 asked for specifics, and McKinnon wouldn't share, only saying this.
That there were threats that he knew about, and that's why he was so protective.
Danye's family says he's the fourth person related to the Ferguson protests to die. They claim each death is suspicious. 2 of 3 do remain under investigation.
The scream that left her throat shattered the calm of that morning, echoing through the neighborhood like thunder. She ran toward him, praying that what she saw wasn't real, hoping she could wake up from a nightmare. But there was no waking up from this. Within hours, police arrived on the scene. Their conclusion came quick, self-unalivement. But to Melissa and to many who knew Danye, that explanation made no sense. The knot didn't look right. The sheet didn't match anything from their home. And her son, a young man full of energy and vision, had been talking about building his own business, not about leaving this world. The official story felt too simple, too quiet for what she had seen with her own eyes. Photos from that morning began spreading across social media, and the world took notice. A mother's cry turned into a movement.
Danye.
Now, prior to what happened to Danye, have you ever received any threats?
Yes. A few times.
Now, the people who threatened you, what were they telling you?
So after I did the front line and fought during the Ferguson movement, I went on to fight and during the non-indictment and the Jason Stockley thing. That's the murder of Anthony Lamar Smith, another unarmed black man. So
What about the threats?
oh yeah.
What were they telling you?
So when I led to do that, I was even more out in the open, in the front. I organized a lot of the actions, the shutdowns. I would get, and I always had my bullhorn. And one time this person said that they were that close, that I really need to watch myself because they were that close behind me. They could have got me then. And one time they said that somebody's gonna shove that bullhorn down my. Other times they were outside my house. They would sit outside my house. Each time the side and back windows were tinted. That happened like 6-7 times. And when my husband or Danye would go out and walk towards the car, they would speed off.
A local tragedy began to echo across America. People who remembered Ferguson, who remembered the protests and the pain, began asking a familiar question. How does a young black man, the son of an activist, end up hanging in his own backyard and the world move on like nothing happened? This story isn't just about one family's loss. It's about trust, truth, and the lingering weight of injustice in America. It's about what happens when the system tells a mother to stop asking questions. It's about the fear that history is repeating itself and the courage it takes to say, not this time. Danye Jones wasn't a celebrity and he wasn't a politician. He was a son, a dreamer, a builder of ideas who wanted to leave his mark on the world. His death shook the very ground his community stood on, because it forced a painful question. When the children of activists begin dying under suspicious circumstances, What are we really looking at? Coincidence or a warning? Before the headlines, before the protests, there was simply Danye, a tall, confident young man with an easy smile and a quiet determination that drew people in. Born and raised in St. Louis County, Missouri, Danye Jones was the kind of son every mother prayed for. Helpful, respectful, and full of dreams that reached far beyond his neighborhood. His mother, Melissa McKinney's, often described him as her best friend. He was the one who would help her with community events, set up tables for voter drives, and even help carry supplies for local families in need. Their bond was unbreakable, strengthened through years of standing together for justice. From an early age, Danye showed an entrepreneurial spirit. He dreamed of running his own real estate business and owning properties that could help his family thrive. Friends said he was always sketching ideas, writing goals, and thinking about ways to build generational wealth. He wasn't one for the spotlight, but he was serious about creating a future that would make his mother proud. People around him described him as upbeat, good-spirited, and caring, the type of person who made everyone around him feel seen. Danye grew up in the shadow of Ferguson, not far from where Michael Brown's death had sparked national outrage.
Justice for Danye. Hands up all night long. We march, we pray. Love gon' light the way.
Before the world knew the name Danye Jones, the streets of Ferguson, Missouri were already burning with pain and purpose. It was August 9th, 2014, the day 18-year-old Michael Brown was fatally shot by a police officer. The moment sparked a storm that stretched far beyond St. Louis County. For days and nights, the streets filled with people, mothers, fathers, students, pastors, demanding answers, demanding humanity. The chant, "Hands up, don't shoot," echoed across neighborhoods, highways, and hearts. It wasn't just grief, it was exhaustion. Decades of being unseen, unheard, and unheard of had come to a boiling point. The police response came fast and heavy. Armored trucks rolled down suburban streets. Tear gas filled the night air, and for the first time in a long time, America was forced to look directly into the eyes of its own pain. Out of that fire came a new wave of voices, artists, leaders, activists, and mothers ready to speak truth to power. And among them was Melissa McKinney's. She marched in the smoke. She shouted until her throat went raw. She fed protesters, comforted mothers, and carried signs that spoke louder than any microphone could. She wasn't just protesting one death, she was demanding justice for a generation, for sons like Michael Brown, and for her own. Because 4 years later, tragedy would return to her doorstep. Different time, same unanswered questions. On a quiet morning in Spanish Lake, she would find herself standing in the center of another storm, this time as the mother of Danye Jones. The same woman who once marched for another mother's son would now march for her own, and her cry for justice would become the heartbeat of this story.
They hung my baby from a tree. They hung my baby from a tree. And they left us up there fired. St. Louis County Police ain't doing nothing. They hung my baby from a tree.
Hands up, heart strong, we pray all night long.
They hung my baby from a tree. They hung my baby from a tree.
Heart strong, keep walking all night long. We march, we pray, love gon' light the way. Justice for Danye, justice for
They hung my baby from a tree.
Hands up, heart strong,
They hung my baby from a tree.
we march, we pray, love gon' light.
And they left us up there fired. St. Louis County Police ain't doing nothing.
Keep walking all night.
They hung my baby from a tree.
Love gon' light the way.
baby from a tree.
Justice for Danye. Justice for Danye. Hands up, heart strong. Keep walking all night long. We march, we pray. Love gon' light the way. Justice for Danye. Justice for Danye. Hands up, heart strong. Keep walking all night long. We march, we pray. Love gon' light the way.
So they would sit in front of your home, terrorizing you. Who were they? Were they white males, females? Who were they?
We always seen white males, and you could see because the front wasn't tinted all the way, and they would sit down, but you can still see, the color. They were white males. Each time, we've never seen any females, or from what we've seen, any black, men or women at all.
So all the times they were showing up in front of your home, did you guys let law enforcement know?
No. For one, I'm known for fighting against law enforcement. Calling the police for me is like, unless it's someone's, I'm not calling 911 unless someone is like Danye, that situation. Other than that, it's we believed in protecting ourselves around here, and we just thought that we could do that.
So the last threat that you received, how long ago was that prior to Danye?
Maybe 3 weeks or so.
His mother, Melissa, was one of the earliest activists in the Ferguson movement, demanding accountability and fairness in policing. She marched in the streets, faced tear gas, and stood on the front lines when others turned away. Danye watched her strength, and he understood what it meant to stand up even when it's dangerous. He admired her courage, but also carried her worry that being outspoken in America could come with a price. By the time he turned 24, Danye was carving his own path. He wanted to buy land, start a moving company, and build a future rooted in independence. He didn't have a criminal record, no known mental health struggles, and no history of self-harm. According to those closest to him, Danye was focused and optimistic. He talked about travel, business plans, and his vision for helping his family reach financial freedom. To his mother, he was more than just her son. He was a symbol of everything she fought for during the Ferguson protests, the next generation living without fear. They shared laughs over breakfast, made plans for the weekend, and spoke of the future like it was guaranteed. Melissa often said that Danye was a light, the type of energy that made dark days seem brighter. That's what makes what happened next so unbearable. For a young man with no history of depression, no reason to give up, to suddenly be found hanging from a tree, it didn't make sense. Not to his family, not to his friends, and not to a community already scarred by too many unanswered deaths. To understand the full weight of that day, you have to understand who Danye Jones truly was, a dreamer who wanted to live. Today, we remember Danye Jones. We say his name with love, with anger, and with purpose, because some stories refuse to fade away. They echo until the truth is heard. Before Danye Jones became a national headline, his mother, Melissa McKinney's, was already known across St. Louis as a fearless activist.
So you fast forward to the 3 weeks later. So you actually found him, right?
I found my son.
You found your son. Okay, so you were just looking for him that day. You say, hey, where would he go? Or
first off, that night I had woke up because I had a crazy nightmare. And I had woke up, my body was hurting, especially my hands, like feeling of like someone, like a squeezing, like it was sore. So I woke up and I like holding my hands. I was like, my body hurts. So I called my husband at work, and I said, I just had a nightmare or something like I've never had before. I said, that just scared me, like really. And he said, like what? I said, my body hurts so bad, especially my hand. And he said, do you want me to come? Come there? And I said, no. I said, I'm okay. Just stay on the phone with me. So we stayed on the phone and we talked. But the whole time I felt weird. I felt disturbed. And we was just trying to figure out what that meant. So he came over, and when he got off, and we walked to the back door because we always take the dogs out. And I looked downstairs and I said, look, the lights are on. And I'm like, Danye, he don't leave the lights on. So I said, Danye, he didn't say anything. So my husband went downstairs and he came back up. He said, Danye's not down there. I'm like, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, you sure? And he said, I don't see him. So I'm like, let me go down here. Maybe he's on the other side. So I went down there and went to the other side, and I didn't see him. Then I looked back on the side where he sleeps, and by his sleeping area, it was a brick. And I'm like, what is he doing with a brick?
So you had a brick?
So I went and picked the brick up. It was a big one. And then that's when I'm really getting nervous. I'm like, what's going on? So I picked the brick up and ran up the steps and took it out through the sun porch to the backyard. Opened the door and set the brick down. And then I looked up and I see a chair. It was far from the tree, but it was a chair. And I'm looking, I'm like, what they been doing in this yard? And then I looked over and looked up, and then I saw Danye. Now, so I walked closer because I thought I was having a dream, and I was like trying to wake myself up. So I kept shaking my head, and I kept doing like this, like trying to focus in. That's when I saw his face, and I screamed his name. And so I turned around to get my brother, and my husband helped me. And all I remember after that is falling to the ground, and I couldn't hear my husband when he came back in, because they ran out, came back in, and I couldn't hear what he was saying. But I was looking at his face, and his face looked like he saw a ghost or something. But I kept asking him, was that my baby? And he was doing it.
She was one of the mothers who marched in the streets of Ferguson after the 2014 police killing of Michael Brown. Tear gas, riot shields, and police lines didn't stop her. She fought for justice because she believed no parent should ever have to bury their child. But fate would soon test her in ways she never imagined. Melissa McKinney grew up in St. Louis County, raising her family with a sense of faith, strength, and community. When Ferguson erupted, she stepped forward as a voice for peace and accountability. She helped organize rallies, delivered food to protesters, and worked tirelessly behind the scenes to keep young people safe. Her activism was personal. She often said, "It wasn't because of just one person. It was because I was a mother, tired of seeing our children slaughtered." Those words would one day echo in her own life with unbearable weight. On October 17, 2018, that weight came crashing down. In her own backyard, Melissa found her 24-year-old son hanging from a tree by a bedsheet. The sight froze her world. A scream broke from her chest that the neighborhood would never forget. Police would later call it suicide. But Melissa knew her son. She knew his heart, his plans, and his energy. Nothing about that morning made sense. She immediately began raising questions. The sheet used to hang Danye did not match any in the house. The knot was one her son didn't know how to tie. His pants were rolled down, and an overnight bag was packed by his bed. To her, these were signs that something was deeply wrong. When she pressed police for answers, she says she was met with silence.
Someone eventually called the police over. Did the police know anything about those people that were stalking, even the threat that was commissioned to you 3 weeks prior?
No.
No. So the police quickly stated that it was a suicide without even a medical examiner looking.
Right.
Why do you think they did that?
For one, they stood out there laughing the whole time.
Wait. Laughing?
Yes.
Laughing about what?
I don't know. I asked. I said, so that's how y'all do when my son's out there laying dead? They were laughing in the front and the back. My neighbor saw it. I saw it. And my brother. And they wouldn't let me look back out I tried to look out the first time. And they had 2 black officers stay in the house with me, and they wouldn't let me look out the window during the time that they were out there with Danye. I didn't understand that. Like, I'm in my house. I just want to see what y'all doing to my baby. But they wouldn't let me. So, something they thought was funny. Yeah, that really got me. And after being out there with them for a while, they came in and told us that it's suicide, whatever, because they didn't see any signs of struggle, and because there was a chair. That was their only reasoning for that, was because there was a chair and because there were no signs of struggle.
Evidence, including the sheet, was reportedly destroyed before full DNA testing could be completed. That moment turned her grief into a lifelong mission. Melissa refused to be silent. She took to social media, posting the painful truth about what she found. She spoke on live streams, podcasts, and at vigils. She looked straight into cameras and said, "They lynched my baby." The photo she posted that morning shocked the nation, not because people wanted to see it, but because it forced America to confront what it wanted to ignore. Her post went viral, and soon national outlets were calling. But behind every headline was a mother crying out for her son. As the weeks passed, Melissa turned her mourning into movement. She began speaking publicly about the pattern of Black activists and young men dying under suspicious circumstances in and around Ferguson. She connected with other families who had lost loved ones in similar ways. Together, they demanded transparency, calling out local officials for failing to take their concerns seriously. The St. Louis County branch of the NAACP soon joined her calls for accountability and a full review of her son's case. Melissa often described how isolating the aftermath became. She said it felt like shouting into a storm.
Our lives matter also.
It is a known fact in St. Louis that area is notorious for the police.
I would like the detectives, all of them, to look at it as if it was one of their family members.
I'm Sarah Fensky. For years, questions have swirled about the many, many deaths linked to protesters active in the Ferguson movement. That includes Darren Seals, who was found dead of a gunshot wound and his car aflame. It includes Edward Crawford, who was captured in a Pulitzer Prize-winning photo throwing a canister of tear gas away from protesters. Police said he shot himself while sitting in the back seat of a car driven by friends. And it includes Danye Jones. He is the son of frontline Ferguson activist Melissa McInnes, and he was found hanging from a tree behind the family's home in Spanish Lake. Police quickly pronounced it a suicide. His mother has pushed back. Danye died in October of 2018, and the questions around his death are now the focus of a new podcast from iHeartMedia. It's titled After the Uprising, and it paints a portrait of a mother's questions and her grief.
The only way that I would hear Danye's voice is if I would make myself hear him. You know, that I would not hear him say, "Mom," or hear him laughing downstairs, you know, because he would be down there watching TV and I hear his crazy laugh. Or sometimes I could see him in the kitchen talking to Dick. Or sometimes I could see him on the red chase with his feet, his long legs and his feet hanging over. That was his favorite seat in the house, was the red chase. And he would sit in that chase, and when he talked, he had this very, very deep voice.
You're a big boy. You're 4 years old. Say, huh? Oh, that's mine too?
Yeah, no. That's yours.
Oh, mine?
No, that's
Oh, man.
that's yours, this mine.
Okay, it's mine?
Yeah.
All right.
And I would hear.
The son of Ferguson activist Melissa McKinney's Danye Jones was found hanged October 17th. She says he was lynched with a sheet. Now, cops are investigating it as a suicide. This is the fourth African-American who was an activist in Ferguson found dead. A couple of others actually were found burned in their cars. What the hell's going on there in Ferguson? We talked to Melissa earlier today.
October 17th, I woke up and went downstairs because the light was left on in his room, and we were going down there to tell him to turn his light off, you know, because I'm real particular about saving on, you know, the bills and everything. So we went down there. Well, my husband, he went down there, and he came back up and said he's not down there. So I said, no, you know, he wouldn't be gone at this time because he's been studying and taking notes and everything. So he's been mainly in the house taking care of everything. So I went down there. He wasn't down there. And so I proceeded I found a brick by where he sleeps. And I'm like, that's odd. So I got the brick and I was taking it outdoors because I thought that he was maybe sitting out there because he goes out there and works out, you know, at night. So I went out to take the brick, and once I got out there, I looked over at the tree and I saw this chair turned over. And so I'm like, what is this? What is my yard doesn't normally look like this. So something told me to look up, and when I looked up, there was my son in a tree hanging. So I screamed his name, and I told my husband, ran to get my husband out, and I remember falling to the ground, and my husband said, yes, that's him, you know. And that's when I called the police, and my brother and husband went to get him out of the tree because that's what the 911 dispatcher said. take him down from the tree. So before they took him down from the tree, my brother took his picture because, you know, we know what they like to do, or they had it on to do when someone of, you know, activist is involved or anything or whatever. So my brother just wanted to make sure that it didn't come back, you know, on me or them, or, you know, that, and we had all the evidence because we don't even trust the system to do right by us. The police started off saying that it is what it looks like, and from the beginning I told them this needs to be investigated. So we got word that they were telling people that it was suicide, but they told us just the other day that it's not suicide when we asked for the sheet back, because we know that sheet did not come from my home. So they gave us everything back, his clothes, and did not give us his sheet back. So if it was suicide, I just said sheet back. So now they're saying it's going to look like it's suicide, but we're still going to, I guess, investigate now. After we called them for a sheet, the sheet had Army knots, Navy knots in it. My son was never in Boy Scouts, never in any kind of military. He served in no military, none, no militia, none of that. Oh, I know there's no way he did that. My family, the ones who know him best, not the self-proclaimed family that are saying all of this negative mess everywhere or whatever. They're self-proclaimed. My real family, his real family, we know Danye Jones, and we know that what he told us, when we talk about it, we talk about, you know, because people in the past, you know, have committed suicide or whatever. He was totally against it. Totally. I mean, he was adamant. He's totally against it. For one, because of my medical condition. And he's always said that he's going to take care of me. That's why he started his businesses. For two, he loved his mother. He loved his family. He wouldn't leave us. We had too much. We have too much fun. We're playful. This is all the time. My son and me, this is all the time. I know for sure. This is not something that I'm just maybe partially sure about, because I know him. He did not do what they said. I want to see my son to be treated as a person who is loved, who is cared for, and I need his life to matter. I want them to put in the effort that they will put in Sally, Sue, or Billy and Bobby. I want them to put that same effort and to find out what happened to him as they would with them. And also, whoever's involved, they better turn somebody in. They better turn on each other, because this mother right here, they saw me go hard for Michael Brown and in the Jason Stockley case. They ain't saying nothing. I'm going hard for this one. They took mine. They touched mine. They came to my house. They touched mine. Big mistake.
Showing Juneteenth love. We got a lot of people outside. I got an artist on the stage. So showing Juneteenth love. We got a lot of people.
No one listening, no one helping, just the echo of her own pain. But she kept going. She gave interviews to CNN, CBS News, Teen Vogue, and participated in the 11-part podcast After the Uprising, which investigated Danye's passing in depth. In each conversation, her message stayed the same. He had a mother who loved him. I deserve answers. Our lives matter also. Her advocacy remains raw and relentless. Even years later, Melissa continues to post about Danye on her Facebook page, reminding the world that her fight isn't over. She still calls for justice, still shares memories of her son, and still holds on to the hope that the truth will come to light. For her, this isn't about anger, it's about love. The kind of love that doesn't fade when the cameras turn away. The kind of love that keeps a mother standing tall even with a broken heart. Today, Melissa McKinney's represents the strength of every mother who has been told to move on. She refuses to. She stands for Danye, for every activist who came before him, and for every young person who still believes their life has value. Her voice shakes, but it never stops. Because when the system closes its ears, a mother's cry becomes the loudest sound of all. To understand the pain that surrounds Danye Jones's unaliving, you have to go back to Ferguson. In August of 2014, an 18-year-old named Michael Brown was shot and unalived by a police officer in the streets of Ferguson, Missouri. His body lay uncovered for hours under the summer sun, and what followed changed America forever. Crowds filled the streets chanting, "Hands up, don't shoot." The air was thick with tear gas and anger. That moment became a spark that ignited a movement, one that called for justice, accountability, and truth. Melissa McKinney was there. She wasn't a politician or a celebrity, just a mother from St. Louis who refused to stay silent. She joined thousands of other residents demanding that their children be treated as human beings, not targets. She stood shoulder to shoulder with other activists, including parents who had also lost sons. She watched as national cameras came and went, and as the city she loved became a symbol of both resistance and pain. For many who lived through Ferguson, the protests were more than marches. They were a fight for survival. Activists faced harassment, job loss, and constant scrutiny. Some were followed, others received threats, and a few, too many, passed away under what families called suspicious circumstances. Among them were Darren Seals, Edward Crawford, and DeAndre Joshua, all connected to the Ferguson movement. When Danye Jones was found hanging in his own backyard, many saw it as part of that same haunting pattern. Melissa knew the risk of being outspoken, but she never thought the cost would be her son. In interviews, she has said that Danye often worried about her safety. He would tell her to be careful when she went to meetings or marches, but neither of them imagined that he would become part of the story she was fighting against. His death reopened old wounds and brought fresh fear to a community that had already seen too much. For activists in Ferguson, the years after 2014 were marked by exhaustion and heartbreak. Many still struggled with trauma from police confrontations and the constant reminder that justice was rarely served. Even so, they kept going. They held vigils, supported families of victims, and tried to build a safer future for their children. Danye was part of that next generation, a young man raised in the movement, shaped by his mother's courage and determined to make a difference through his own path. When his life was taken, the message hit deep: if the children of activists aren't safe, who is? Social media filled with messages from other Ferguson voices demanding that Danye's demise be investigated. People used the hashtag #WhowJustice for Danye Jones not just as a slogan, but as a plea to be heard. The public wanted answers, and the activists who once chanted in Ferguson streets found themselves back in the fight, this time for one of their own.
Hello, my name is Melissa McKinney Sanders. I am the mother of Danye Jones, who was found hanging from a tree in October of 2018. The reason I come to you today is I didn't know which meeting to come to, but I can be at every meeting I need to be at. But I have an issue. Maybe we can put this in a budget, if possible. If not, then, just let me know. I can raise it and maybe pay for it myself. But all I ever ask for is someone to give us the time for a proper investigation. Not putting on a detective, a lead detective that is known for being a racist, that's known for not liking activists and protesters as myself. Before my son was found killed, we were threatened. He was threatened. I was threatened. Yet, in the report, there was so many lies. Also, the detective, which is Timothy Anderer, he said that he sent me a letter stating that I can come and pick up the evidence so that I can do my own, have a private investigation. I never received the letter. I still haven't heard anything about the letter. So as Danye's mom, all I ask is maybe if in the budget, we can get some answers. I'll be at every meeting I need to be at. But as Danye's mom, I ask for someone to care. Thank you. Thank you.
The climate in Ferguson had always been tense, but Danye's death reignited fear and unity at once. It reminded the community how fragile safety felt for Black voices speaking out. It made people wonder if justice could ever truly exist when every truth seeker had to look over their shoulder. Yet through the fear there was also faith. Faith that voices like Melissa's would not be silenced. Faith that the story of Danye Jones would not be forgotten. The Ferguson movement was never about one incident. It was about generations of pain and the courage of ordinary people who dared to demand more. Danye's story brought that reality home again, that for every name we chant, there's a mother crying behind the scenes and a community trying to heal while still fighting to be seen. The night before October 17th, Danye Jones went to bed like any other night. He had been talking with friends about new business ideas, sketching plans for his moving company, and looking ahead to a trip he wanted to take. Nothing seemed out of place. His mother, Melissa McKinney, said he was calm and positive, full of energy about his next steps. There was no sign of distress, no hint that something was wrong. But by the next morning, everything would change. When Melissa stepped outside that morning, she expected to see another quiet day in Spanish Lake. The sun was barely rising and the air carried a chill. Then her eyes met a sight no parent should ever have to see. There in her backyard, hanging from a tree, was her son, 24-year-old Danye Jones. The world stopped in that moment. She screamed, the kind of scream that comes from the soul, one that shakes the ground and makes time stand still. She ran to him, hoping what she saw wasn't real. But it was. Police were called immediately. Within minutes, officers from the St. Louis County Police Department arrived and began their investigation. The scene was quickly labeled as self-unalivement. They found no obvious signs of struggle, no weapons, and no footprints leading away from the area. Their conclusion came fast, but Melissa's questions came faster. She knew her son. She knew his spirit, his plans, his love for life. None of it fit the story she was hearing, and after further investigation of my own, I agree with her. It didn't make sense. Melissa McKinney stated that the bedsheet used at the scene did not match any sheets from their home. She told reporters that the sheet appeared unfamiliar and that she didn't recognize the fabric or pattern. To her, this raised questions about where it came from and how it ended up in her backyard. The unfamiliar sheet suggested possible outside involvement or planted materials. Next, Melissa observed that the knot used in the bedsheet was complex, a type of tie her son did not know how to make. She said Danye had never tied knots like that before and would not have known how to construct one strong enough to hold body weight. This detail, in her view, cast doubt on the claim that he had prepared the setup himself.
Danye Jones, who on October 17th of 2018, I found lynched in our backyard.
Since then, I've been fighting. We've been fighting to get answers. We may not get justice here on earth, but I do believe that justice will be served. My issue also is Danye wasn't the only one that was murdered, and I'm speaking on that. They've killed a few others. I would not say their names because I don't have permission right now. So today I'm speaking on my son. My thing is, and my family, they're trying to say that he did it, which it doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. But I have some so-called brothers and sisters that call me sister, that feels that spreading the false or the rumors is much easier than having to fight. If you're afraid, just say, you know what, I don't have it in me. But don't make the situation worse by spreading false tales. You know it's not right. You know who you are. Just imagine if it happened to you or yours. That's all I ask you to do, is just try to put yourself in my shoes. But I, his mother, really need an investigation. And I won't have it any other way. I'll take that to my grave. I'm fighting for mine. Like I've said so many times before. So, it's hard. It's really hard. There are times where I don't even want to get out the bed, staying in this house is hard. I just need to get away. I need to get away, even if it's for a few days, and I just, but I'm trying to stay focused, because I know what needs to be done. Do we need help? Of course, we need help. But what we don't need is the help from those that aren't genuine, those that aren't organic. It has to come from the heart. It has to come from your soul. So I don't need the help from those that claim to be there but really aren't. Those that claim to love my family and I, but behind closed doors, when you're speaking to others, it's messy, what we call messy. I don't need those. We don't need those. Danye don't need those. We need those that really want to know what happened, really want to expose those that are have been set out to silence us, to destroy us. Because Danye wasn't, he's not going to be the last. Of course he wasn't the last. By some, sorry. It's going to continue if we don't stand together.
is going to continue.
Then, according to Melissa, his pants were rolled down, not neatly lowered or removed, which she found unnatural. She said it didn't look like something her son would have done voluntarily. That specific observation, small but striking to her, contributed to her disbelief in the self-unalivement ruling. Additionally, investigators found that Danye had an overnight bag packed in his room. Inside were clothes and personal items suggesting he had plans to go somewhere. For Melissa, that meant he was preparing for a trip, not preparing to end his life. Also, Melissa McKinney's and her supporters raised concerns about how the bedsheet was processed. Reports later indicated that DNA analysis of the sheet revealed unidentified genetic material, but it was never fully investigated or matched. The family said they were later informed that the sheet had been destroyed before all possible tests were completed. This sounds strange, in my opinion. Why would evidence be destroyed prior to it being fully processed? She's right, it doesn't make sense. After that, friends and family said Danye had no history of depression, suicidal ideation, or self-harm. He was reportedly optimistic about his business ventures and life goals. Melissa emphasized that he was happy, creative, and motivated days before his demise. And finally, family, Melissa said the self-unaliving ruling came within hours, without what she believed was a full or independent review. She felt the process was rushed and that her concerns were not properly documented or addressed by investigators. To her, this reflected a broader pattern of quick conclusions in cases involving young black men. She began noticing details that raised alarms. The sheet wrapped around the tree didn't match any set in her home. It was tied in a complex knot, one she says Danye didn't know how to make. His pants were rolled down instead of pulled down, a small but strange detail she could not ignore. Near his room, an overnight bag had been packed neatly, suggesting he had plans to leave, not to die. These details, she believed, pointed away from self-unalivement and toward something far more sinister. In her grief, Melissa did what many mothers in pain might not have the strength to do. She documented the scene. She took photos of what she saw, determined that no one would erase the truth. When police officers seemed uninterested in her suspicions, she posted the images online, along with her words, "They lynched my baby." Her post spread like wildfire. People from across the country saw the haunting photo and demanded answers. What happened to Danye Jones? Why was the case ruled as self-unalivement so quickly? And why did so many of the details not add up? Investigators said there were no signs of foul play, yet questions about the evidence continued to grow. Melissa later learned that the bed sheet, one of the most critical pieces of potential evidence, was destroyed before a full DNA test could be performed. Early reports indicated that unidentified DNA may have been present, but the testing was incomplete. To her, this wasn't just a procedural error, it was proof that her son's case was never taken seriously. As the days went by, the community began rallying around Melissa. Neighbors brought food, activists came by to comfort her, and online supporters began raising awareness through the hashtag Justice for Danye Jones. Local news outlets picked up the story, and soon national media was calling. For Melissa, every interview, every tearful conversation was another chance to tell the world what she saw and what she believed had been covered up. She stood outside her home for hours that week, facing reporters with her voice trembling but steady. "This is not a self-unalivement," she said. "My son did not unalive himself. He was murked." Her pain was raw, but her conviction was unshakable. Even as authorities tried to quiet the story, Melissa refused to let Danye's name fade into another forgotten headline. The morning of October 17th was more than the start of tragedy. It was the beginning of a fight for truth, a fight for accountability, and a fight for every parent who has ever been told to stop asking questions. For Melissa McKinney's, that morning became the dividing line between the life she had and the mission she carries now, to make sure no one else's child becomes a mystery buried under silence. From the moment Danye Jones was found two very different stories began to
They
unfold.
hung my baby
On one
from a
side stood
tree.
law enforcement, firm in their conclusion that this was a suicide.
They hung
On the
my
other stood
baby
his
from a
mother, Melissa
tree.
McKinney's, crying out that her son had been lynched. Between those two realities lies a deep divide that reflects more than one tragedy. It exposes how race, history, and distrust shape every search for truth in America. The official report from the St. Louis County Police Department claimed there were no signs of struggle. They said Danye had used a bedsheet to hang himself, that there were no defensive wounds, and that the evidence pointed toward self-infliction. To investigators, it appeared straightforward. The department quickly ruled the death a self-unalivement, closing the case before many of the questions raised by his mother could be answered. For police, it was another tragic example of mental health struggles ending in despair. The St. Louis County Medical Examiner's report, obtained by media via records request, said cannabis was present and no alcohol was detected. The same coverage notes the office did not perform a full autopsy, yet still ruled the death a self-unalivement. Earlier reporting in late 2018 said officials were awaiting toxicology before finalizing the cause of death, which is consistent with a tox panel having been ordered. I was not able to find an update after this last report, but Melissa rejected that explanation immediately. She knew her son's mindset, his personality, and his plans. She remembered the joy in his voice days before his death. Danye was working toward launching his moving business, saving money, and talking about travel. He wasn't a young man sinking into depression. He was preparing for life. "My son was not suicidal," she said in one interview. "He was full of ideas, full of life. He was just getting started." Then came the inconsistencies. The sheet that police said he used didn't match any set in their home. Melissa didn't recognize the material or the knot used to tie it. The pants Danye wore were rolled down, not lowered, a detail that struck her as unnatural.
Family, let's talk about a very key detail that Melissa captured: the pulling down of the pants. Between the late 1800s and the mid-20th century, thousands of African American men, women, and children were lynched across the United States. These were not isolated crimes. They were acts of racial terror designed to maintain white control and keep Black communities living in fear. Lynching wasn't only about killing the body, it was about crushing the spirit. The Equal Justice Initiative, a civil rights organization that researched thousands of lynching cases, found that victims were often bound, stripped, or exposed in public before being murdered. The violence was deliberate, a message written in blood and humiliation. These lynchings often took place before large white crowds, with photographs later sold as souvenirs or postcards. It was a spectacle meant to degrade, dehumanize, and enforce silence. Scholars have written that public lynchings were never random acts of hatred. They were organized displays of dominance. Victims were sometimes disrobed, their pants pulled down, or their clothes torn off to add humiliation to injury. Let that sink in. Danye's pants were pulled down around his ankles. In the eyes of the mob, this stripping away of dignity was as much a weapon as the rope itself, or in Danye's case, the sheet. It told the Black community, "We control your bodies, your image, and your fear." One of the most haunting examples came in 1942, when a Black man named Cleo Wright was lynched in Sikeston, Missouri. Dragged from a jail cell, beaten by a white mob, and paraded through the streets, his body was left burned and unclothed before a cheering crowd. His death became one of the last widely publicized lynchings in American history, and it forced the federal government to confront the horror it had ignored for generations. The historical record is clear. Lynching in America was not just physical murder. It was psychological warfare. It was meant to shame, to silence, and to terrify. And for generations, these images of pain were used to remind Black Americans that equality came with a cost. Today, when we speak the names of the fallen, when we remember men like Danye Jones, we are not only mourning, we are defying. We are reclaiming the dignity that was stolen, because every name we say is a rejection of the silence that those acts of terror tried to build.
And the most critical piece, the bedsheet itself, was reportedly destroyed before a full DNA analysis could be completed. It was later revealed that unidentified DNA traces had been detected on the sheet, but the investigation never pursued who it belonged to. For Melissa, that was evidence ignored and justice denied. Her claim of lynching wasn't made lightly. It came from generations of history, a long, brutal legacy of violence against Black men in America, often dismissed or covered up as suicide. The image of her son hanging from a tree carried a deep, painful echo of that past. In her eyes, it was not just about her son's death, but about how easily a Black life could be explained away without accountability. "They lynched my baby," she wrote online, forcing a nation to confront a word it tries to forget. The photo she posted went viral. Some criticized her for sharing something so graphic, but others understood the message. She wanted the world to see what she saw, not filtered, not softened. Her post became a cry for justice, a demand that no one sweep Danye's death under the rug. Within days, the hashtag Justice for Danye Jones spread across social media, sparking debate and drawing attention to the growing list of activists and young men in the Ferguson area who had died mysteriously. Police officials maintained their stance, saying there was no evidence of foul play. Yet they never explained the missing pieces, the DNA, the mismatched sheet, the packed overnight bag. To many, that silence spoke louder than words. It reminded people of other cases where families had to fight alone for years to get the truth. The tension between official reports and lived experience became the story itself. For Melissa, calling her son's death a lynching was not about anger. It was about truth-telling. It was about forcing a conversation that America too often avoids. She wanted people to understand that for Black families, trust in the justice system is fragile, especially when that system controls the narrative. "If I don't tell the truth about my son, who will?" she said in one interview. "They've already tried to erase him once. I won't let them do it again." The question of what really happened to Danye Jones remains open. Was it self-unalivement, as the authorities insist? Or was it a modern-day lynching, as his mother believes? What's clear is that the investigation left too many holes, too many unanswered questions, and too much pain for a family that deserved better. In the end, it may not just be about how Danye died, but about how his death was handled, and what that says about the value placed on Black lives when the evidence doesn't fit the official story. In the days that followed Danye Jones's death, the McKinney's home became both a place of mourning and a rallying ground. Friends, neighbors, and local activists gathered in her yard, lighting candles beneath the same tree where her son had been found. They prayed, they cried, and they promised Melissa she would not have to fight alone. But when the news cameras packed up and the reporters moved on, she was still left with the same haunting question. Why did the world accept a story that didn't make sense? Melissa McKinney's refused to sit quietly in her grief. Within weeks, she began giving interviews, appearing on community radio and national television. She spoke to anyone who would listen, demanding that Danye's case be reopened. He had a future, she told CBS News. He was building a business. He had dreams. He had life. Every word came from a mother who had seen too many investigations go nowhere. Her message was clear. She wanted transparency, not sympathy. As Melissa's voice grew louder, others joined the call. Civil rights groups like the NAACP's St. Louis County chapter demanded a full review of the case. Local clergy organized prayer vigils and marches through Spanish Lake. On social media, the hashtag Chakchi Justice for Danye Jones continued to trend, shared by activists, artists, and community leaders across the country. What began as one mother's cry turned into a larger conversation about accountability, mental health assumptions, and the legacy of racial violence that still lingers in America's memory. Despite the outcry, the official ruling never changed. The St. Louis County Police maintained their position that Danye's death was a self-unalivement, offering no new updates and no new evidence. But Melissa's determination didn't fade. Instead, she turned to alternative platforms to keep his story alive. In 2021, she partnered with the creators of the 11-part podcast After the Uprising, which examined Danye's case in detail. Through that series, listeners across the world heard her voice, trembling yet fierce, recount the events of that October morning and the long, painful silence that followed. The podcast also explored the broader pattern of activist deaths in the Ferguson area, connecting Danye's story to a troubling list of others who died too soon. The producers followed Melissa through interviews, revisiting police reports, and retracing Danye's final steps. Her willingness to reopen her wounds publicly wasn't about fame. It was about forcing the system to face its failures. Every interview, every speech, every tear was part of her mission to make sure no other mother had to beg for the truth. Melissa's advocacy, however, came with a price. She spoke openly about the toll it took on her mental health. The grief didn't fade with time, it evolved into a constant ache. On her Facebook page, she still posts about Danye, sharing old photos, birthday tributes, and memories that keep his spirit alive. Some days her words are filled with strength, other days they tremble with exhaustion. But always she speaks with love. Her page has become a living memorial, a digital space where thousands of people come to grieve with her, to remind her she's not alone. For many who followed the story, Melissa McKinney's became a symbol of perseverance, a mother who refused to let her child's name be forgotten. She turned her pain into a movement. She met with other mothers who lost sons to violence or police encounters. She spoke at schools, church gatherings, and community events, telling Danye's story again and again. Each time, she emphasized the same truth. This isn't an attack on police. This is an attack on the lack of accountability for my son's death. Our lives matter also. Over time, Danye's name became more than a headline. It became a reminder that behind every statistic is a family waiting for justice. A reminder that the fight for truth is not just about reopening a case. It's about changing how America listens when Black families cry out for answers. Even now, years later, Melissa McKinney's continues to fight. Her pain has not dulled, it has transformed into purpose. Through every Facebook post, every candlelight vigil, every interview, she keeps Danye's memory alive. For her, justice isn't only about proving what happened that morning. It's about making sure her son's life and the lives of so many others were not lost in vain. Time has passed since that October morning in 2018, but the pain has not. For Melissa McKinney's, every sunrise carries a memory of the son she lost and the questions that still hang in the air. How did a young man with no history of mental illness, no note, and no warning signs end up hanging from a tree in his own backyard? Why was the evidence destroyed before the truth could be fully known? And why do so many families like hers have to fight so hard to be believed? Danye Jones' story never received the same national attention as others. There were no major marches in Washington, no official investigations broadcast on television. But for those who knew him, for the community that stood beside his mother, his name carries weight. It reminds people that justice is not always loud, and that some of the most important battles are fought long after the headlines fade. Melissa's voice continues to rise in those quiet spaces, at community meetings, online, and in the hearts of other grieving mothers. She has become both a reminder and a warning that silence is a form of complicity, and that unanswered deaths must never be forgotten. When she speaks about Danye, her words come from a place beyond anger, from love that refuses to die. My son's story isn't over, she says. They can close their case, but I will never close my mouth. Her determination echoes through a generation of activists still haunted by Ferguson's shadow. Many of them now see Danye's name as part of a larger movement, a demand for visibility, for care, and for the right to ask questions without fear. For these young voices, Danye is more than a victim. He's a symbol of how courage and vulnerability coexist. He represents the cost of standing for something in a world that too often punishes truth tellers. Even with all her strength, Melissa admits the struggle never ends. Grief visits without warning. There are days when she can barely breathe, and nights when she scrolls through photos of Danye, whispering prayers that only a mother could understand. But she keeps posting, keeps speaking, keeps fighting. Every post on her Facebook page is a digital protest, a reminder to the world that justice delayed is still justice denied. Danye's legacy lives through her persistence. It lives in every mother who refuses to let her child's death be forgotten. It lives in every young person who dares to believe that their voice can still make a difference. And it lives in the question that lingers long after the cameras go dark. How many more will it take before America starts listening? The truth about what happened to Danye Jones may never come neatly wrapped in a report or a press release. It lives in fragments, in the evidence that was lost, in the memories that remain, and in the faith that someday someone will care enough to reopen the file. Until then, his story belongs to all who hear it. It is a call to awareness, to compassion, and to courage. Because behind every hashtag is a heartbeat. Behind every protest is a mother's cry. And behind every silence is a story that still deserves to be told. Danye's life, short as it was, carries a message that can't be erased. That truth, no matter how long it hides, will always find a way to rise. As we close this story, we remember that Danye Jones was more than a headline. He was a son, a dreamer, a young man with a future full of promise. His life deserves to be remembered not for how it ended, but for how brightly it shined while he was here. His story reminds us that every life holds purpose, and that no family should ever have to fight alone for answers. We've walked through the facts, the questions, and the emotions surrounding his death. While the official reports describe one conclusion, his mother, Melissa McKinney, continues to search for clarity. Her love for her son and her ongoing call for accountability remind us how powerful a mother's voice can be. It takes strength to keep speaking when the world grows silent, and she continues to speak for her child with grace and courage. This documentary is not about blame. It's about awareness, compassion, and understanding. It's about encouraging all of us to pay attention when families ask for help, and to support communities that have carried pain for far too long. We may not have every answer, but we can choose to stand beside those who are still searching for truth. If you or someone you know is struggling with grief, loss, or thoughts of self-harm, please reach out for help. You are not alone. In the United States, you can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Healing begins when we speak up, when we listen, and when we care. Melissa's journey reminds us that advocacy often begins with heartbreak. But from heartbreak comes strength, and from strength comes change. Her story encourages us to look deeper, to protect one another, to value every life, and to keep asking questions that matter. So tonight, as we honor Danye's memory, let's also honor his mother's fight. Let's keep their names alive with respect, empathy, and hope. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for caring enough to seek understanding. And to the spirit of Danye Jones, may your light continue to guide those who refuse to stop searching for truth. Your life mattered, and your story will never be forgotten. This has been Hanging Out in the Backyard, the unfortunate and suspicious demise of Danye Jones. Thank you for kicking it with Auntie Leah.
This ain't silence, this is thunder. The ground remembers every name. The streets still breathe, and we say, never again. Till then we ride, we rise. Let the God King form their pain. Till then we ride, we ride. Hands up high to the blood red sky. Turn that battle, don't die. Everything King form never again. Say their names, we ride. We ride, we rise, we on my way. We ride, we rise, we on my way. We ride, we rise, we on my way. Say their names and never again. From Emmett Till in the river's pain, to Mega ever still calling her name. Jimmy Lee Jackson, the march began. Then Dr. King fell for freedom's plan. Rodney King beat on camera like made the whole world see I fight. I'ma do the yellow 41 flame. flames. Proof that justice don't feel the same. Bell gun down before he wed. Oscar Grant on a platform bled. Trayvon Martin hoodie up their lives. Still we march with mother cry. Jordan Davis, the music loud. Now his name's to move the crowd. Eric Garner said I can't breathe, man. That phrase became my battle plan. Michael Brown on Camper Road. Lit Ferguson with truth untold. Tammy Rice, a child so young, a toy in his hand, a nation stung. Every march is a heartbeat, every tear a drum. We walk for the ones who ain't coming home. Never again, ain't your words to say. It's a promise we keep all dying. Freddie Gray, Walter Scott, Sandra Bland. Faith in the cell with no helping hand. Philando Castile, just reaching slow. Alton still in the video show. All them jeans singing songs that on Battalion of Jefferson left alone. Elijah McClain said I'm different, I'm calm, but the system don't need a gentle mind. I'm out operate running free. Breonna tell a shot and sleep. George Floyd crying, I can't breathe. The world fell silent, no one need. JaguarWright another night. Ty Nichols chased by blinding light. And Danye Jones, a name we say, cause the mama still marches today.
Says we rise.
Pie to the blood red sky. Just a grab a truth don't die. Say their name, never again. This ain't for views, it's for memory. Every march we walk ain't temporary. The names belong in our breath, our beat, our blood. Never again is now.
Justice for Danye.
I just want to say thank you to everybody that did help donate to my brother's GoFundMe account. But we are still needing more help. We still to get his remains lifted and get a private investigator to get the process going and started. If you can go ahead and click on the link and keep sharing, that will be gladly appreciated by me and my family. We are still grieving. As you can see, we are still having the memorial tree in the backyard. And it's not getting better until we get the justice that we deserve. So please keep sharing, and that will be gladly appreciated by my family. Thank you.
Time has moved on, but Melissa McKinney's pain has not. Each sunrise is another reminder that her son's story still hangs in the balance. Years have passed since that October morning, but no new answers, no accountability, and no peace have come. The GoFundMe that once carried the family's plea for help has long been closed, but their need for justice remains wide open. They never asked for fame, they asked for truth, and truth has yet to arrive. We remember Danye Jones, not as a headline, not as a social media post, but as a young man with dreams, a son who laughed loud, loved his mother deeply, and believed his life had meaning beyond the struggle. His mother fought for others in the streets of Ferguson. Now she fights for him. And in her tears, the whole world can hear the echo, that same cry that's been passed down for generations. No justice, no peace. This is not the end of Danye's story. It is the continuation of a mother's march for truth, a reminder that every time we say his name, we keep the light burning for all who never saw justice. Justice for Danye, justice for them all, and may peace one day be found where pain once stood.
So she spoke through the hurt, turned sorrow to flame. Stood in front of cameras and said his name. Not for fame, not for gain, not for pain, but so no mother's tears will be wasted again. Melissa said, this ain't about hate, it's about healing. It's about the unanswered questions we keep feeling. It's about the way the system moves too fast, and the stories that fade when the headlines pass. But her voice, her fight, became the proof that love will tear down lies and lift the truth.
We rise in his name, lose at his name, lose on the silly eyeball. We rise in his name, lose at his name, lose on the silly eyeball. We rise in his name, lose at his name, lose on the silly eyeball. We rise in his name, we rise in his name.
We rise different faces, same old pain. But with his grief, there's also grace. A mother love the system can't erase. From protest lines to podcast words, a story traveled, a message heard. No matter the label, no matter the case, truth is the torch she refuses to waste. He was one of a kind, the son of the brave. A heartbeat this world could never enslave. His legacy breathes through every chant. Every mother who whispers, no, I won't recant. They said move on, she said I can't. Because love don't rest where pain still plants. It grows through tears, through sleepless nights, through prayers that turn into civil right. Facebook posts of trembling hands still test her across these lands. She keeps his memory tender, pure. A love so strong it's revolutions cure.
We rise in his name. Use on the steady, lose on the steady guy, yo. We rise in his name. Use on the steady, lose on the steady guy, yo. We rise in his name. Use on the steady, lose on the steady guy, yo. We rise in his name. We rise in his name.
We rise for the mothers who speak through their pain. We rise for the children they're trying to sustain. We rise for the future, the justice, the flame. We rise in his name. We rise for the mothers who speak through their pain. We rise for the children they're trying to sustain. We rise for the future, the justice, the flame. We rise in his name. Years may pass, but love don't fade. And truth don't die when courage is made. From Spanish Lake to every street, his name still echoes beneath our feet. When you say his name, say it soft, say it clear. Let it carry through pain, through anger, through fear. For every story they try to contain, there's a mother somewhere whispering his name. The world moves fast, but grief walks slow. Justice whispers where answers won't go. So we rise in his name, in her tears. For every parent still fighting through years, this is not the end, this is the start. Because love is the loudest revolution. And Danye's name still beats in every heart. Rest in power, Danye.